Alright. After a little technical difficulties in regular fleeing sparrow fashion, um, we're back for another tavern talk. It's been a long time.
Indeed, it has.
Oh yeah. Tonight's topic, emerging butterflies. Sort of how campaigns and tone can change over time and just change in general. I mean, Sparrows has definitely evolved from where it started a lot. One of the biggest recent changes, I think, the switch to Nimble. Do we want to get started on that, I think? Adrian,
I want to get started more on
mm,
just where we came from. So we'll kind of follow a timeline here
go for it.
of where exactly we started, how it's been going, and how it's ended up. Almost a recap of everything we've done so far, because I think that'll paint a good picture for us.
I think that would be good.
I think Vito, let's take it off from Tao Te.
Alright, so a long time ago, before Sparrows was even concepted as a campaign, I watched a I watched a small, quaint little anime. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called Demon Slayer. Um,
Yeah, a little quaint. Yeah, a little really niche.
and I got really enveloped in it, and I was like, oh, this would be so cool to have a campaign about like going around and just using regular weapons to fight these fantastical creatures. So I texted Adrian and a few people. I'm like, hey, Marshall's only campaign. And originally people are like, what? No. Adrian was like, bet. Can I play a ranger? And I'm like, if you flavor your spells as something martial, you're fine. So that's how it started. And, oh, just got a message from Mel. Yes. So basically that's how it started, and we ended up doing a few sessions. It was good, it was fun, it felt right, but it fizzled out because time constraints and other factors such as starting college, so we kind of fell off with it. And moving along, months down the line, I kept writing lore for this thing. I was like, oh, well, let me expand on the lore. Let me add a little here. Let me add a little there. I ended up making a slightly new world, kept playing D&D through college, and I started with To Kill a Fae. And that was my click moment as a DM. Oh, thank you. So, that was my click moment as a DM, and it was really, it was eye-opening for me. Like, I was never a real prepper before then. I never really prepped anything all that much. And To Kill a Fae, I had a few things prepped beforehand, and I started doing a real, genuinely thought out storyline. And that's where everything kind of fell into place for me. I'm like, oh, so this is what D&D can be. Further down the line again, we keep moving forward. It's near the end of my freshman year of college. I just met Mel for a campaign. By the way, Mel met me through my second running of To Kill a Fae, and we ended up hitting it off. Like, immediately, just on the same wavelength, really interested in each other's characters, and it was such a wild time, but I pretty much turned around and was like, hey, I want to do this Marshall's only concept again. So I ended up running a one-shot trying to turn it into my college campaign, and realized that the tone was wrong. Like, nobody was serious enough, everybody wanted to make joke characters. Like, Mel was really one of the only ones that was like, no, I'm gonna play a real serious character, and I'm like, oh. So I kind of put it on the back burner for a while, just because I ran it as a one-shot. And then I texted Adrian, like, hey, you remember Tao Tai? And Adrian, take me through your thought process from this point.
Right. So Tao Te really was one of my Like one of the only campaign experience that I had in a long time. We stemmed from Estrella, which was my reintroduction back in the D&D, and that was more mini quests and a community. Sitting down for an actual campaign with Tao Te was a lot more, close, and it felt right. It felt the way you should play D&D. When it stopped, I was like, okay, well, that's that. And Vito starts running his own thing. We go both off to college and whatnot, and he comes back with, hey, I would love you to join this campaign I have. I've been thinking about it for a while, so it's kind of a resurgent, a reboot of Tao Te. I'm like, okay, hell yeah, I'll do it. Can I run the same character? And it was yes. Which was I was very excited about. I think the whole thing I loved about the beginning of Sparrows and, like the continuation of Tao Te, it was a very different tone from a lot of the games we played. Like what Vito said, a lot of people like to make jokes. I mean, it's a game, you have fun, but I look for more of an experience, more of a cinematic theme to a lot of the stuff I like to play. And Vito trying to bring back Tao Te in the form of sparrows really excited me because wow, I get to continue this experience again that I loved so much. So, yeah, I was super excited, and especially having a small campaign size, it was really good. And I just love the tone of it. So before we started, I was really excited, and just couldn't wait to meet the people that he had planned. And I just trusted him. I trusted him a lot with the beginning.
You did put a lot of trust in me there, and the start was it was decent. It wasn't my best DMing of all time, of course, but I definitely did have my bumps. I was a fairly still somewhat of a new DM, mostly mechanics focused. It just ended up being very samey a lot of the time, and it really stemmed from the whole thing of, oh, I just want to have them be dueling and like do the general like martial arts and shonen anime stuff and run around to dojos. And then they kind of took this approach of let's just go around the world and see what's going on. And I was like, okay, so we can still make them heroes, we can still make them good, we can still make them like the thing that the people look to. And just then I realized midway through, I was like, well, what if they don't want to be 100% morally justified and good? What if they want that moral ambiguity? And I think in that moment that I thought of that, I think that was one of the first times where I allowed you to make some pretty morally decently bad decisions, I would say. The first one that I thought was genuinely like a decision where you could have gone the slightly evil route was probably not even. It was honestly midway through our first run, our first season, but where Ravi had the chance to kill Ida when he was a kid. He was running into the forest. Slick draws an arrow back and goes, he's still a Karai. Just say the word. And Rafi, in that moment, the choice was in his hands. And I know we've talked about this choice a lot, and I know Adrian loves this choice. So again, I want to hear, did that change the tone of the campaign for you similar to that it did for me, or no?
Can I be honest? I think the change for me was less. I mean, that was a serious character change, yeah. But I think the tone shift when it really hit was Lust in
Ooh.
Sakura Village. Honestly, because I think a lot of the tonality that we were chasing was a little bit more towards the classic D&D adventure of bad guys, good guys. And as our party began to grow and become familiar with each other and we kept fighting these crazy creatures, I think the time we fought and defeated Lust was the first establishment of the tone that we were trying to go for, or at least Vito was trying to portray to us, of yeah, you live in this world, but it's not a fantasy. It's not good guys, bad guys. There are real consequences, and they will affect you, they will affect me, they will affect the story, your characters, and the world that I've been building. So I think Lust was really a choice for the whole game itself.
I like that. I didn't even
I don't know
think
if
of
you'd
Lust.
agree there.
Uh,
Yeah, it's that far back.
it's that far back. Honestly, I forgot about Lust for a while, but to be completely honest with you, yeah, I think so. I think that was definitely a choice. Because not only did we have, you know, mass death in that room where it wasn't like, oh, you jumped in and you saved them like the heroes. We also had an NPC death. Like a pretty big one too.
Yeah, it established, again, it also really changed the dynamic of the party too. Well, I mean, Rafi was all jokes and stuff, and we kind of established that the tropes of our group of Rafi being the hot-headed comedian, Alcoy being like kind of more the dad, the more responsible one, and Jude sitting somewhere in the middle, almost like you would a main protagonist with that, that perfect balance between the two. I think it really gave all three of us more depth and kind of hit us with kind of almost dumped experience of D&D on us of, all right, how do I develop my character now after I made this decision? Because now we can go in any which way, not just good and bad. I can go anywhere on this compass.
I like that a lot actually. Wow. I didn't even think of that. So yeah, that was probably the first tone shift. God.
Yeah, this is the DM versus player like mindset of Vito's thinking of like, oh, these little moments, these little shifts, like these big decisions that the characters made, and the players are thinking about, oh well, what did we see as a party and what did we experience on the ground?
Yeah.
Because
No,
we're a
that
lot more
is
connected to our characters than you are because we play them.
that's
So
exactly it.
we're thinking about those changes. You're thinking about the total shift of the game.
That is true. And honestly, that total shift is something that I see a bit more just because I have a bit more of a pulled back perspective. I have to look at all three of your characters and care about all of you. And kind of, that's why when I ask one of you if you want this ability, I gotta make one for the other two, you know? I have to keep balance. I have to
Mm-hmm.
keep roleplay balance as well, you know? I have to give everyone their weight in their own way, and doing that doesn't allow me to really delve into the emotions of a character like the person playing them could. So hearing that, I like that a lot. I really
Mm-hmm.
do.
Going back to more of our topic, right? Where again, that first big shift for us, or at least me, from my perspective, was the lust fight. Can the interparty relationships between all of our characters, Alcoy, Jude, Rafi, really changes at when you start looking at again the Ida decision, where Rafi chose not to kill him, and then that links back in however many sessions, and it starts to kind of tie our futures together. The discovery of the discovery of like Rafi's love, and then Jude and Lefty's relationship, Alakuy's relationship to his gods, the Ryukin, and the internal void within him. I think everybody exploring that at the same time keeps pushing our roleplay abilities, keeps pushing our previous experiences to start working towards this new character. And then Vito along the way giving us these kind of forks in the path to build this incredible tree that we follow. It really established that tone. Now, I don't know if you want to add anything else, Vito.
Uh, yeah, no,
Like in
honestly,
our first season, like our first season of Sparrows, I guess we'd call that pre-time skip.
yes. Pre time skip,
What would
what would I want?
what would you say are the moments you would highlight as these stepping stones and how the campaign shifts in tone? Like
Ooh,
from this before this decision was made, it was more like this. but then this decision was made, and now the party interacts this way, or the world works this way, and we react to it blank, blank, blank.
So before the tournament, I would say that you guys were going around as samurai hunters, and then after the tournament, you followed a bit more of like a fugitive path, if you will. Like you started acting a bit more like fugitives, kind of hiding out in the forests and such. And then after the explosion of Suzume Castle, it took on a bit more of a free form, like, we're not here to do anything specific, we're just here to survive and do our own jobs and adventure around. Which, like, that's not your case technically, because you were still on a mission, but the other two very much move around. Alcoy's was very focused on the dojos until he beat his master. Not until he beat his master. Until he went to Rai City and encountered the higher level masters. But I think really where the whole, not only the tone, the abilities, the magic of the world, and just the world building shifted, the first run of Amosa.
Yes.
Going in there.
Amosa was the point, man.
It's the center point where we can track a lot of the good things and where Sparrows really clicked for us back to. That is where everything shifted, not just the tone, the lore, the world building, the way I world built, the magic of the world. Because originally, the magic of the world was very Demon Slayer. You know, you would do something, it would be like, you know, it would originate from you. You know, now you have this more arcane type of spirit magic that, like, you can start pulling things from the weave and all that. And, like, technically we don't have the weave, but, you know, pull things from the spirits and all. And it changed a lot. But I think that happened, and then after the sloth fight,
Sloth?
that was a real turning. No. The real sin fight where a lot of the things turned, again, it happened in the first run of Amosa. Greed. My boss encounter
Greed.
design improved astronomically after Greed. And I don't know if you'll agree, but that Greed fight, and that's where the Phase 2 joke originated from. It's my favorite joke.
Greed was quite possibly my favorite, or at least I'll put it like this. The Greed fight in Fleeing Sparrows was the definition of a great boss fight. Like, I think I establish, if I play other games or I look at other things, my baseline, the bar to beat, is Greed, because 3 party members and a few NPCs go up against this incredibly unique and well-designed character with multiple facets that you have to, defeat, and then wade through these enemies, and then try and figure out to solve this puzzle while you're also actively watching your health points drop. Like, I think Greed was that moment of more of a test, right? A test both outside of the game, where it's, okay, Vito's been working on this boss for a while, and he needs to think, is everything going to work? Is everything going to feel good? And then the players are, okay, I've been here in this campaign for months, and I've been walking through this land with these other 2 people in my party. How will we get together? And the very end, where Alcoy, so Alcoy killed him, or Alcoy was charging out. Rafi threw up trees around him to boost his breathing, right? And what was Jude doing? I forgot.
I believe she was actually blocking Greed, if I'm not wrong, because Greed tried to, like...
I think she was engaged in combat with her.
I think so.
Like Jude buying time for the other 2.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, it was truly one of the best D&D boss fights I've ever seen, in both media and playing it myself.
I appreciate that a lot, honestly.
Which kind of sucks, because then, like, if another boss fight happens to have a mistake or something, I think it's really, Like I have such a high expectation now. But moving on, right? Again, that was a big tone shift for the party. I think that was a big party shift.
Yes.
Most was a lore shift. The fight itself was for the party. After that, where did we go? Was it time skip at this point?
No, you went to Rai City to fight Sloth, and then you went to Yamanaka to fight, what's it called? Wrath. Or, well, you didn't actually fight Wrath. I think Sloth was a slight tone shift in, like, you know, Alkoi used to honor the Ryukin and just want to, like,
Yeah,
you know.
that's really an Alkoi thing.
Alkoi shifted hard with that, because originally he started with, like, oh, you know, I don't really agree with a lot of the things in the culture, but, like, I can respect it. And now they've been lied to the whole time in the upper echelon. He doesn't know how far it goes up or how low it goes down in that upper echelon, but he's like, I want to spread this truth to the Ryukin, but nobody's listening now. So he turns himself into like a pariah, basically, which is part of his character now. Like, he's trying to spread the word that you are being lied to. And it's very interesting, because you don't really think of Alkoi's main mission a lot of the time, because he just exists in the world, he exists with the people, he kind of goes after
Party
it when
centered.
he
He's party
can.
centered.
What?
He's party centered, which is like he will follow and help out whoever
Exactly.
wants to do something. He'll
That,
sprinkle his wisdom or whatever he wants to do in there as well. And I think he really supports more of our decisions instead of his ideal or his
right.
missions.
He's very, maybe not the age, but he's very much like an Uncle Iroh. Like, he has his own goals and ambitions, but really when he's there, he's supporting you and the people around him. You know, he's...
You know what I'd compare it to?
What?
I'd compare it to like when you complete the main storyline in like a Skyrim level, like in a Skyrim game or in Witcher, where it's like, all right, my main storyline is done, but what else is there to see in the world? I think as characters, Jude and Rafi are in that like halfway mark of completing their storyline. Alco is done. Like I think he's just trying to keep moving forward
Mm-hmm.
after he completed his goal to keep bettering himself and others. Rafi and Jude still have something to do, so Alcoy wants to help them too.
See, I will agree and disagree with that at the same time. I think that's true, but I think Alcoy's main goal is so big and nebulous that he knows if he did it all at once, either it'd be an impossible task to do on his own, or he knows that he can't actively be pursuing this. Like, you know, for him to do that, he would have to leave his party, he would have to do things that he really wouldn't agree with. You know, he preaches when he can, but it's not... He's not like Jesus where he's running around to every town preaching his good word. He's just existing in the world and kind of, you know, if people will listen, he will talk. But I'd agree with the fact that, like, his main goal really is just, you know, not around anymore, and he's just venturing around just to kind of support and be around and see the world. You know, because he likes to learn, I've noticed. Anytime he comes
Yeah.
back, he likes to learn craftsmanship, he wants to learn rune. He's got a lot he wants to learn and can't learn it all, but at least he can become conversational with it, you know? Which is interesting. He's very much what I would call a bit of like a skill monkey, if you will. Like, he wants to learn everything. Not that he learns
Yes.
the technical ability of how to do it, but at least he's conversational on all topics, you know? Which I
He
find
just
very
searches for
interesting.
more wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Which I like
Going
very much.
back,
Hmm?
little tangent there about Alcoy's motivation. Um, and again, another big tone shift was, I think, Yamanaka with Wrath, right?
I was about to say that.
Where we kind of, again, it's a little bit of a different world in Yamanaka where the town's a little bit more quiet. We have a training arc and we meet a Sin, but for the first time, it's not overly hostile to us, right? As opposed to like Gluttony or somebody like that, which is a little different. But Wrath is the first one that really connected with us on a level, and where we knew he was a sin, but we willingly stuck by him and let him teach us things. Um, it really brought back that gray area, like the ambiguous nature of these things. Of some of them are crazy, yeah, they sins, yes, but some of them just kind of disappeared and want to be left alone and are friendly. So that and the wrath fight of like this is kind of crazy, you know how we were just talking to this guy a minute ago, now we're getting brought back to life to keep fighting him, was really cool. And again, another a little bit less of a tone shift, but more of a fulfillment of something. Time skip.
Time skip. That, oof. That tone shifted hard. See, before the time skip, Rafi was just very much, at least from my perspective, he was just around, he was good, he was doing things. After that time skip, he'd been working with the criminal underground for some time, so his moral ambiguity shifted a little bit more down the, like, I wouldn't say morally bad, but I'd say he's not opposed to doing bad things. You know, before it'd be a question, now it's a, okay, you know?
Yeah. It's not a question of is this right? It's a question of will this benefit me?
Exactly. Jude became a lot more manic in the time where Lefty wasn't there, and Alcoy really didn't shift all that much, in my opinion. Like,
Alcoy was the anchor for that arc.
I will say he
I really
was.
think he kept the party sane and kept us connected to who we were.
Yeah. And then going into the spirit realm again shifted a lot of things. Meeting Ida shifted hard as well. So you met Ida in that
The
moment of
man mother. Oh no. Oh no.
So starting off with
Yeah, we
Ida
gotta
though,
talk
that
about that.
oh,
Oh yeah. Ida.
that tone shift of, you guys didn't really question the adventuring up until you sat down and spent time with Ida. And Rafi took a moment to be like, I have a kid at home. The fuck am I doing?
Exactly.
Just seeing that, it was hard because, that took a lot from Jude too. Mel has mentioned it before. She's like, I just and she can correct me, but if I remember correctly, she did say, I never saw that being a future for me, like as a character. I was like, when I saw that, there was something in me that went, this is possible for people in our family, like talking about Ida. Like, I didn't think that was like in our blood. Not a settler type. And going back, I mean, the Hanagifora line was actually more of a settler type. Think about it. Kaida, her great, 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 I'm not going to spend the 5 minutes to keep saying great, but
Yeah.
really old grandfather, from years past, was not only a settled down man, but he was a man that just resided in high council of a society. It's a different thing than what she's used to, where she's used to moving around and bouncing around. And jumping forward, she got to see that it is a possibility for her in the future once Lefty started taking over Amosa again. But moving back, Mend Mother. That was another tone shift. You want to talk about that? Because I know that's one of your favorites.
Yes, absolutely. So, being in the spirit realm, again, going back to Ida just for a little bit, I think for Rafi it was a lot more of like again, it's kind of shared with Jude of wow, like people can do this after living on the run for so long, but also more of like people can give up the belief of Karai. People can give up on their beliefs and what they've previously done and settle down and be good people. While Rafi wasn't Karai, he was certainly not a great person and didn't do great things. Ida was Karai and he managed to be happy for a little bit, although it was a little bit, kind of puppeteered. But I think that opened up his eyes. Going to Men Mother now. Wow. So I think again, going back to establishing tone, I think the Men Mother fight and the entire sequence coming out of that town, out of the Men Mother's domain in the lair, was bringing us back to we don't own this world, we just live in it. There are things bigger than us that we just can't understand, and all we can do is hopefully they're merciful and hopefully we can run away fast enough. This really was, again, a movement for all three of us. Not because of Men Mother. Men Mother was really more of an Alcoy thing for in terms of character development. I think the entire ride down all the way to Ida's old house was the change for all of us. Because like you said, it brought back that idea of it's possible to settle down, and then it was, but what if it was all fake? So coming from the Men Mother lair, establishing Alcoy's relationship to the void as him being a construct and not even really a sentient being of its own free will, that's his character choice. And I think, or that's his character development. I'm not going to comment on it because that's his character. I don't know too much about it. I was more focused on getting him out of there alive. But coming down and walking through what used to be a town that we were having a lot of fun in, the avian Zaza joke came from that town. And then we go down there, and then the was he a panda bear?
He was a brown bear.
Brown bear. And the guy who was selling us little like incense and perfumes all of a sudden turns into this mangled creature that Rafi tries to mercy kill but really can't in time. It hit somewhere in like it hit a nerve somewhere in my body of this is so uncomfortable for me. Like, not in the best way possible. Like, this is so uncomfortable for Rafi. Ida's house. The kid that I had been signing to, Rafi kind of felt connected to that kid in a way, seeing him as almost an extension of his son. And Jude seeing Ida as, somebody who really found a good path, watching it all crumble before us was incredible. And let's talk about the arguments, the absolute heresy that was said. And while Rafi's clearing the house trying to look for the kid and the wife, holy shit.
Yeah. Again, that sequence where Ida kills his son was very... Oof. That was hard. And then just immediately after, the anger from it. But it also does bring into perspective, sometimes Jude does act a little bit rashly, but it wasn't just her that did it. It was you that acted rashly. But your actions reflected onto her.
Yeah, clocking him in the side of the head and then running away.
Yup. Ripping off the seal from the cursed being.
Yeah. And then that, like, the recovery state after, where we were in a neutral zone, and Ida wakes up, starts berating Rafi, and Rafi just takes it.
Yeah.
For the first time, instead of lashing out. I was like,
oh my god, he's gonna kill him. There's no way.
I think that's like the first step of Rafi becoming a father figure, almost. Like, maturing. Being a little bit more, I understand where you're coming from, instead of, I'll take your words at face value and hit you.
Yep. I think that was very mature of Rafi, honestly. But, again, that kind of brings back the shift in Lefty's character as well. Think about it. Before the time skip, he was brash, he was outgoing, he was very boisterous.
Oh, yeah, Lefty.
And now he's like, I wouldn't say quiet, but he sits a lot more on his back foot. Yeah. I mean, think about it. He went through at least 10 years of torture consistently. So, that does something to a man, where less so now. He used to be the, like, on par with Alcoy powerhouse. He's still a good swordsman and he's still powerful, but he's much less flamboyant about it, and I'd say his power scaling took a significant hit. You know? I think compared to the party where he used to be on par, he's now just below them, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
At least in terms
It
of raw
becomes less of a
power.
party member and more of somebody we take care of.
Yes. And that's heartbreaking, because now Jude takes on that role of, rather than I fight alongside him, I fight for him. Which again
Mm-hmm.
characterizes Jude with that. Now she really has not only basis for it where she can be, the person to take care of him, where she used to do that and he'd be like, I can take care of myself. Now she does it, and it's like she sometimes needs to. I mean, it's insane, which also probably feeds into her defensiveness of him. He's
Yeah, for
lost a
sure.
lot, and it's pretty scary. But it also now leads into a weak point of Jude, a little chink in the armor. Because if anyone can get to Lefty, immediately they get to Jude. And I'm not talking about like kill him. I'm talking about any level of threat to him sets her off. Any level of anything said about him, anything that the hand or anyone says, they can immediately set her off. Which is not a bad thing for the character. Those kinds of weaknesses, they don't always need to be physical. Sometimes they can be emotional, and sometimes they can be your attachments. You know? But that shift in Lefty's character has definitely interested me, because he was always one of those, like, I want him to be one of the top in the verse, and blah, 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 blah. And he still is one of the higher rated characters, but he took a significant hit. Significant. But you also see that shift, where he used to kind of not train as much or not show you him training. Every night in the Swords Grove, when you were doing that training with Ida, you can hear him thwacking away at a tree with his one good arm. Learning how to wield a sword one-handed now. Whereas he used to be able to do it two-handed and really put power into it, now he has to think more about his cuts. His fighting style shifted too. But that's just Lefty we're speaking about. I think moving forward after that, coming out of the portal is another shift. Or the journey to it
You
was a
think
real
so?
shift. Because originally the spirit realm was just, oh, it's like this fantastical place that we travel through. That journey through was like, oh, this place is somewhat unknowable and very dangerous.
I think that was almost subconsciously our first taste of where we would go later to Rubia,
Mm-hmm. I think so.
where that long travel time and going through different paths and areas where we have to problem solve and get through it alive. I think also a good, like, almost a checkpoint, like an emotional checkpoint for us, was our second run to Amosa, right after we get out of that portal.
Yes. I think so. I think a lot changed
Because
there too. Like, you can see,
we're.
what's the word? What are you gonna say?
No, go ahead. Keep going. I want to
I
hear
was
that
gonna
thought.
say the change there, in my opinion, was you guys have been known now. It's not like you guys are some small time travelers that go from town to town and just become known in that town. People are now hearing your stories, and when the people that encountered you in the portal, who turned out to be an alternate party to you guys, Shin, Oro, and Nikita, kind of turn around and go, we know who you are. It's like, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, the legend continues.
It's a little bittersweet, honestly, for me, because number one, focusing on that party interaction, like our names being known, it's like, oh, we sound cool, but if you've seen the things we've seen and done the things we did, you would not want to be known, right? You would not want to be known for those things. And I really want to focus more on that second coming of Amosa, where it's open. It's like you can traverse it. And also, first time we came to Emosa, it was magical. We were learning things. We were excited, learning about our characters' past, what they're connected to, what they could do. After we learn all that and we come back after Spirit Realm, it's very melancholy. Of like, this place is quiet. We never realized how quiet it was until we stopped talking. Ooh, that's a hard line.
Uh-huh.
I never knew how quiet it was until we stopped talking. Because we were so excited, and when that excitement goes away, it's a sad place where Rafi just kind of sits down in that Makurai estate. Or no, he doesn't. Does he? No, yeah. He sits down in that Makurai estate and he just kind of like withers almost. Jude does the same thing, and Alcoy wanders and tries to keep on his toes. Really, really crazy. And also the fight with Alcoy and Nikita.
That was a real shift in how Alcoy fought then on. Because it started with,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to treat every fight like it's a learning experience. And then he now asks a lot of the time if someone challenges him to a duel, is this a fight? Or is this for knowledge? Which helps him determine the level of effort he puts in.
Yeah, because he really, like, he got hit by Nikita when he first sits down and he kind of waits. Nikita takes it as a direct insult. It really was an eye-opener. Well, it really was an eye-opener for him, like you said, where not everybody wants to learn. Some people just want to kick your teeth in.
Yep.
Which kind of prepared us for the underground.
Yep. That's exactly what it prepared you for.
Area.
Another tone shift. You want to talk about the underground?
Hell yeah, man.
Go for it.
So, the underground I was waiting for a long time because I wanted to explore the grittiness, right, of magic and what the world that Vito built, of what really, like, what makes the world go round. And exploring that with Rafi's character, of everybody be like the other two members, Alcoy and Jude, being like, why do you know this place so well, and who are you in this place? Like, all we did was go down some steps and now you're like the king of criminals almost. You're part of an assassin lead. And also, I love how it brought up, kind of challenged the morality of Jude and Alcoy, where Alcoy kind of walks around and he notices all these weapons and they have different tones to them. And they have different looks. They're not regal swords that remain sheathed until, they're ready to be used in a duel. It's stuff that people walking down the street want to kill somebody, they'll pull it out of their pocket and kill you.
Yep.
And then Jude's thing of exploring all these different people and how her past connected to them as well. Right?
Yep.
And also giving us that look of, we've been doing some morally questionable things. What if we're just doing straight up bad things?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And seeing Rafi kind of almost lose it a little. Like, I think throughout this entire story, it's been Rafi slowly unraveling and him trying to keep himself together. Because now he has something to live for. And, oh man, the party interactions with the underground of, like, Rafi knows what he's doing is bad, but he thinks it's justified. Alcoy doesn't. Like, sometimes Alcoy and him butt heads at that morality and the purpose of all these things.
Yep.
It's super crazy. I really love that arc.
I do. You know where it really got to me with that underground stuff? Wasn't the Chugi thing, it wasn't... So, again, the underground was a long-running thing, so it's still going, but in between there was the... Maybe not the underground portion, but another tone shift of going back to Kazan and finding the remains of Wong. Sort of seeing that the Karai can be a force in the world when you're not there. And I gave you that choice, and that also gave me another tool. If I want to go into an area and kill people who are like NPCs, what I'm going to do from now on is I'm just going to be like, look, this area is getting raided. I have stat blocks for the NPCs. If you want to play as them, you can affect their fate if they live or die. Otherwise, I get to choose who dies. You guys make the decision if you care about them enough to play as them.
Oof.
And that gives me a tool, because now
Well,
I can go into the Marquez estate too. Like, I have Slick and your whole family statted.
yeah.
So I could,
Oh, that's
in
good to
some
know,
way, I
Leo.
could have the...
Thanks.
I could have the Karai march on the
By the way,
Marquez estate.
Adrian, yeah, your whole family, dude. I have stat blocks and they have HP points.
But it's true. I can do that for a Mosa. Let's say someone wanted to march on a Mosa. I have that for most cities. And if I feel that there are certain criteria that need to be met for this to be possible, like what's the strategic advantage, why, what happens, blah, 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 blah. But basically, for me to go into an area where you have tangible NPCs, not just random people you've met along your journey, but tangible NPCs that you've interacted with and continue to interact with, I need to have a real reason to go in there. You know? Like, I'm not just gonna march on it just to create, just to give you a character death to make you mad. I'm gonna march on it because Kazan was a village that was rooted with the hand and the Karai and it had a lot of opposing forces. And the Karai were like, look, the people in this village aren't bowing the same way they used to. We need to march in and we need to torch this place because it's becoming an outpost for outlaws rather than our people. And it's way too close to our capital. So they marched on it. Which also
And boy, did
caused
they
a
tear it
Mosa.
up.
Oh, they did. Which also caused a Mosa. A Mosa came back. That's why. Those are fugitives from Kazan. And now just people who are refugees from other areas that are getting torched. I would not be surprised if since after Rai City, you see a lot of Ryukin coming to Amosa. There's going to be a surge in Ryukin now. Whereas it wasn't that many Ryukin originally, now there's going to be a large surge because they need a place
Yeah,
to
after
go.
the fall of Rai.
Yup. A lot of the poorer families will definitely go to Amosa. It's like it's the analogy of like coming to America, the land of opportunity. This is a new place where the lower classes can now come and build
Sanctuary.
themselves up. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Huh. Yeah, it's like after war starts ravaging, like criminals start coming up, there's all that warfare in the streets. Where do you go? We go to Amosa.
Mm-hmm.
New Amosa. What was
Exactly.
once a magic town that nobody inhabited is now a beacon for people looking for homes.
Exactly. And it is coming back as a magic town. You're starting to
Yep.
see some of these travelers hear about Amosa again, like, oh, it's coming back? And you're starting to have people come from other countries too. The Rubian weaponsmith, such as.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That
So
was a mindfuck.
that was, wasn't it? Where like a family saved up
Yeah,
and
dude.
sent him there. It's like we didn't want people here, and it's like now they're coming over because they like want to. It's like, what? It's a very
Dude, the
different
whole
tone.
thing of like Rafi's what am I trying to say? Like the whole thing of like Amosa, I love that idea too, going back to it. Of Amosa being that beacon of people, but now the hand and like the underground kind of catches up to them. Now there's little like sprinkles of them looking for magic weapons in there, the blades.
Yep.
And now what does that do for Amosa, where they have all these people coming in, and with them might be some criminals, some assassins, people looking for to do malicious things.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you. I'm here with it.
And yeah, I think after that, let's move to Rubia now. So now we've gone through what we started with, what we did, and what tone changes happened. Let's start going to the buildings of Rubia. So after we close out that kind of section, we start going to these different places after Rice City, right? That's where we left off after Rice City fell.
Yes.
I think you and me trying to build Rubia was us almost going back to the roots of monster hunting,
Yep.
artifact hunting, and really exploring that almost Taute levels of like nostalgia
Yep.
of let's see how our characters do in an entirely different place, but it's also the same.
Yes. I think Rubia, the tone shift for me is that one word you wanted from me, alien. You wanted alien. You wanted it to be different. You wanted it. You even said, I want to feel like I'm going into the spirit realm for the first time. So I was like, okay. So I took a lot of inspiration from Ghibli, as weird as it sounds, a very like wholesome and happy area. But the way I world built Rubia, it was very not only just Ghibli, like the Ghibli soft explanations for things. The magic system in Rubia is very hard to explain, and it's like shamanistic, and it's you don't know everything. It's not one of those like, oh, it's all in a
There's
book.
really like there's less rules.
Yes, exactly. And the other thing with Rubia is I built it around the monsters. So what I mean by that is I took a bunch of different monsters that would inhabit Rubia, and I pretty much turned around and was like, okay, where would these live? So I'm like, well, the Bungasnees look like they're covered in moss. Let's just put them in the swamps. The swamps are full of spores now. So swamps are poisonous-ish. Miyazaki level poison swamp. You will have to trek through one of those. No, I'm just...
Mm.
But in all seriousness. And then the Tikbalong. Tikbalong are horses. Horses can really go anywhere that they can walk. So they can go anywhere. They mostly reside in the forests, but they can venture into the swamps. Some variant Tikbalong might even be in the mountains. But then I went, okay, those are two examples. But then I went, okay, the natives here need to know how to fight these things, because otherwise they wouldn't have survived. And I'm not saying they gotta be able to perfectly subdue, but they have to be able to survive. So I was like, okay, what tools and weapons would they use? Okay, where does that come from? Who does that do? You know? So that's how I ended up building all the different tribes. Like the Catalonan either use grappling hooks to swing through the trees, or they use stilts so they can kind of walk above the ground so they don't step into the like moss and marsh. And it works. That's why they have those 4 poles. They walk around on the 4 poles to like
Oh
base out.
wow.
That's
I
why
didn't
I'm
even think of that.
mm-hmm. That's why I turned around, and that's why Alcoy was like, oh, why is he carrying 4 poles? 2 are longer than the other 2. And it's like, well, the first 2 are for your feet, the other 2 are for your hands. And you just walk
That's so
around like that.
sick. I didn't even know that.
Yup. Which also
That
means
would have saved us a lot of
it
time.
would have saved you a lot of time. Not only that, but it also means that the Catalonan can also use this as a tactic against the Karai. I forgot to write this in the lore document, but I wrote it in my own. The Catalonan, to scare off the Karai sometimes, will pose as Tikbalong and other creatures that travel on all 4s due to their stilts. And they will use animal hide and things like that to kind of assimilate or sort of scare the shit out of them. They also use it for sort of shock and awe tactics, like, they see a Tikbalong, they start hunting it, because the Karai are too brash, they follow it, and they go right into a trap from the Catalonan. So, it's one of those.
That's so sick. I didn't even know that. You know what that reminds me of?
Hmm?
Do you know you watch Avatar: The Last Airbender,
I
right?
do.
Do you know the Swamp Benders?
Yes, that's exactly where
You
it's
know when they
pulled
have that
from.
big creature?
Yup,
Yeah,
that's exactly where it's
that's
pulled
exactly.
from.
Yes, that's a great comparison to the Rubian swamps. If you
Yup.
want to lore build on that more. But back to topic. We went on another tangent.
Ah,
So, I like that again, that alien feeling. And even Tarafit's a little alien now, because it's not the home he knew. He's
right.
not a kid traversing the more mountains and forests hunting monsters, right? It's a lot more like a country being built. And that's kind of his fault too, because he's been sending so much money that he kind of owns this place almost financially. Like the Rubian people, even though they don't know it, they owe a lot to him
Oh yeah.
for building up so much with just his, his own hands and his money. So I think Rafi's kind of seeing I think he's seeing what he's done, and even though it's good, he's very uncomfortable. He doesn't like change, which is funny because we've been talking about change this whole time and how much he has changed. I really think that this traversal back to his home is the one that's going to change him the most.
Oh yeah.
Once a stupid dumb kid with all his brothers is now practically alone in a world that he thought he knew, but everything is different.
That's
He's
also
seeing
another
more of
tone
it.
shift I'd like to mention. It happened in one session in your house. The tone of like, oh, we're gonna joke around, we're gonna have fun, ha ha ha. And then immediately, once dinner was over and everybody went back to their rooms, you could feel the emptiness of that house. When the music was turned off, your mother, instead of, joking and cracking, she was immediately.
Yeah.
And then the other
Oh,
shift
man.
was the Inquisitors. You
Yeah.
used to hunt down others. And when people would hunt you, this is another tone shift. When they would hunt you, they would challenge you in a street and yell out your name. Here, you just had arrows flying at you, and you didn't know where they were coming from. It was just.
Yeah, they knew we were here, and they just started dropping trees and blasting us.
Yep.
Even though we fought them back and we managed to defeat some of them, for the one of the first times ever, like even compared to the hand, where they would use hit and run, they didn't stay.
No.
They ran, and it's like, why are they running? They're Karai,
It's
and
another
it's
shift.
so crazy to
Yep.
think about that. I love that comparison to the house too. Again, it's that quote that I'm gonna come back to of I didn't know it was this quiet until we stopped talking.
Yep.
Now that we're going through, I think also the forest again is another shift change of us coming down, meeting Alcoy, like haha, we're back together. Okay, let's go back to business, start loading up. Rafi thinks he knows what he's doing. Oh man, that's so cool actually. Hold on. I think like in my head, Rafi knew what he was doing. Because he's like, all right, yeah, we're just going through a swamp. I know what's going on. And then I get hit with all these different little things that I have to manage. And Rafi as a character starts to lose it. And me as a player, I start to lose it. Because I'm like, this is not going the way I expected it to. I'm supposed to be the ranger, the smart guy who knows how to traverse this land. And I just almost got 2 of my party killed.
See, that's the
Feels a
thing.
lot of guilt.
There was there were a few texts in there. So, how's it feel to, be at the mercy of nature? And I just heard, fuck you.
Yeah. It's so it's like I also that again like the tone shift with the environment of now we're being hunted. We have
Yep.
to go. We have to try and accomplish our mission while also staying alive. Because really, it wasn't a concern for us most of the time because we were so powerful. We could fight off people. Now that with these monsters, we didn't really fight monsters. We fought people. We fought clans, samurai, sins, which were still sentient beings. Things are just animals.
And they're not dumb
And I
animals
love
by
that
any
too.
means. They're
Yeah,
surviving.
they're not. They live here, dude. And I think that also shows in the fight with the Bungisnis and the Tikbalang, where Rafi was kind of familiar. He knows what's going on. He knows how to fight these things. He threw bolas. He used his brain to cement himself down and fight the Tikbalang. I think after the Bungisnis showed up and he gets that draw, like the sinking feeling in his heart of, oh my god, there's 3 of them. We need to go. Alcoy doesn't really know that.
Yup.
I mean, that might be a game. That's also a game thing, obviously. It could be
Yes.
a game thing of like, maybe these creatures are just too tough for us, but why would he throw them at us now? I think it establishes a good point of, it really establishes a good point of Jude and Rafi and Alcoy have been fighting things that they can stand with for so long. Alcoy has never fought any of these. Jude has never fought any of these. Rafi only heard, a few rumors and he's tried, but after like hitting them so many times and them having these debuffs that slow us, Alcoy still thinks there's a chance. Rafi feels like, okay, we need to go. We need to go. And Alcoy wants us to sit and fight.
Not only
I think
that,
that really is it.
The
Yeah.
Tikbalang ran. Jude chased it. That's what got you into the Bungasneeze fight. Otherwise, the
Yeah.
Tikbalang would have just been out of there and you wouldn't have had to deal with it. Jude continued to move to it and she was like, I want the kill. And that's the Yumagawa mindset of, you're not going to stand and fight, I'm going to kill you so you're not a problem later. In Rubia, you're going to run? Good, let me heal. Let me take my time to lick my
Yeah.
wounds too. You know?
Yeah. Like a win condition, right? You know, the win condition of instead of us coming out as victors, it's us coming out alive.
Mm-hmm.
We managed to fend it off for this long, and now it's hurt enough that we don't need to pursue a fight anymore. So we can go and do our own thing. And I love that juxtaposition between us fighting in Yumagawa and us in Rubia, of Jude wanting to kill, Alcoy thinking he can take these things on because of previous experience, and Rafi being so out of it, of seeing both his friends in danger, himself in danger, and also things are not quite right. He's
Mm-hmm.
not right. The world around him isn't right. And all he knows right now is that they need to get out. I love that tone shift of one of the first times ever Rafi doesn't want to fight.
Mm-hmm. That is definitely an interesting one. The other one of like, maybe it's not different because Rafi's done it before in the underground, but he snapped at Alcoy again. Because Alcoy's like, oh, is killing a Bungasneeze like a. Because he's trying to joke, he's trying to like lighten the mood and be that anchor of like, we can chill out for a second. And Rafi's like, this isn't a fucking game. You know? The other thing that you guys haven't had to experience is like when you guys sleep, you get a lot of long rests. So you get to like rest for the night and be safe at night. You're out in the woods. So you guys, you have gone days without sleeping back in Yumagawa because it's really relatively not that strenuous for travel back there. Out here, you go 2 days without sleeping and all of a sudden you're exhausted. You have a
We're
level of
doing so
exhaustion.
much in the travel.
Yup.
Like, it's not even the fight. Like, there's a point where we have to actually start managing our characters, not just looking at our sheets anymore and seeing what spell should I use. It's, oh my god, I have a level of exhaustion, I have this much HP, and I'm under the poison condition because of the swamp. What can I do to help myself stay alive until the next town where I can rest?
Yup.
I think we really started seeing that with the cave scene. And I think it really started getting a Rafi too, of like, it's not right. Oh my god, and the realization of the mark of the Manananggal. I think you could see me like start to turn the gears in my head. I'm just like, wait.
Because I did
It's
say that to
following
you. I
us,
was
it's
like,
been stalking us.
the Manananggal, it marks its victims. And you're like, oh, well then why wouldn't you just, protect that person when you're out there? And like just wait for the Manananggal to strike it. And I'm like, oh, don't you worry. And you're like, okay, I trust you, whatever. The mark isn't so much, oh, it's gonna immediately attack you. It's like a black spot from Pirates of the Caribbean. Where like, it's hunting you. It's not gonna make one attack. It's gonna wear you down and torture you. And that's the thing where Jude was like, this thing has to be controlled by something. There's no way something takes this much sadism in hunting you. And it's like, you read that passage and it's like, it does. It does, actually.
Love that design.
Mm-hmm.
Some things just want to watch the world burn.
Oh, yeah.
There's not really a bigger picture here.
That's
Obviously,
exactly
there's a bigger picture, but like, at this very moment in time, welcome to Rubia.
Exactly.
Where you're lucky if you see the sunlight.
Yep. And that's the other thing. You saw the Manananggal shrine. The little sort of thing stuck in the tree. Impaled with the fake wings, and you're like, the fuck? It doesn't.
Stuff that even Rafi doesn't know about.
Oh, yeah. And you don't know if the Manananggal did it or someone else making an offering. You never know. And that's the best part.
Like, that's a question I still have in my head of why was that there? And I'm not going to try and find out because this thing will murder us. We don't
Oh yeah.
have anything that's correct right now. Like, we have supplies, but they just got stolen. We don't have the right equipment. We need to talk to the locals.
Yep.
I have to stop thinking that I could take this on my own. And
Mm-hmm.
I need to talk. I need to start learning.
Oh yeah. The other thing that I like is the nuisance that it becomes and the sort of like impending doom that it's always just two steps behind you, just watching, you know? Just waiting for you. It's the idea of the human kind of just walking slowly behind its prey, you know? That's the thing. That's how we
Yeah,
hunt. We just keep walking
it's an
behind you.
endurance hunter.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it is. It's an endurance hunter. And that's the scariest type because, you know, one of those ambush predators, you just get out of the ambush or you see it coming or, you know, you miss one attack and you're gone. You get out of there. But the endurance hunter, it will just keep following you. And it won't stop. It's not going to rest.
I can't wait till we start exploring. Like,
It's going to be good.
going back. Ooh, emerging butterflies. Wow, what a transition. So, again, that tone shift of survival instead of victory. I'd love for this campaign, right? I know you have stuff planned, but it's seeing these different monsters and how they operate, which ones will wait us out, which ones want to kill us now, and then start running into an entirely, almost like an entirely new enemy of the Karai strongholds, like the Karai, the abandoned almost.
Oh, yeah. That whole idea of.
Seeing how they fight.
Oof. See, that's the best part. I can't wait for next session. Because I already
Boy,
teased it to Alcoy in his one-on-one. But basically, with his one-on-one, he's in the boat, they're rowing down the, like, thing, and they see 3 Karai soldiers, and his guide just takes a tarp and throws it over him and goes, "Lay down!" As they're, like, peeking through this tarp and just floating in this boat trying to dampen the light. Whereas in Yumagawa, Alcoy would have been able to just get up and murk these guys. Kind of brings that whole, why am I avoiding 3 soldiers? And that's something for you to
it's like
find
I've
out.
fought gods before, but I'm hiding from 3 soldiers?
Oh yeah.
It's crazy. And I want to see, like, again, not just our party's changes, but the NPC changes around us.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't wait to see how the Karai operates, and I want to see these new clans, right? Because we're so familiar with the Suzume, the Karai, the Rai,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can't wait to see these new Rubian ones,
Oh yeah.
where I have some experience. I know, like, realistically, I only know a little bit because of the lore we've written, but how you want to play them, how they operate. I love that the trading system, right? How I only have so little Kamagong, and everybody wants it. So I need to start, like, showing my hand a little bit less.
Yep.
Stop saying I'm a Marquez.
Yep.
It doesn't carry the same weight anymore.
Exactly. Like the guy turned around, he's like, "Oh, 1 kamagong plate for this." And then you were like, "Oh, well, you know, I don't have enough kamagong for that." And then you go to pay, and you're like, "You know, how about X amount of arrows?" He's like, "I know you have kamagong on you now. Why am I going to take your arrows?" Like, he tricked
Exactly.
you. He like, maybe not tricked you, but, you know.
Gotta start managing my resources. I don't know when I'm gonna get more Kamagong.
Mm-hmm. That's
Like, I'm made of
exactly.
it, but I'm literally made of it, but I just can't pick off parts of me to buy cool things.
No, not at all. You gotta really manage what you need. But,
What a cool concept.
oh, it's great. And
Instead
you
of
also got
everything
a
can be bought
glimpse
with
of,
gold.
how sort of Rubian settlements are different than Yumagawan ones. Yumagawan ones, you live there your whole life. You go to the land of the Catalonan, they're nomads. They have those settlements set up as checkpoints for themselves. But really, they're not living there for long periods of time. Like, sure, a few of them will stay, but it's mostly a traveler's town. It's really like maybe 5 people that live there permanently, and then the rest of, like, the whoever comes through the area just kind of takes a house or, you know, just rents it out. It's small. outpost, more of an outpost, which is why it's also hard for the Karai to establish a foothold there, but also hard for the Karai to kind of squash out the Catalonan in that area. Because, yeah, you can burn a village, but the people there are coming and going, so you're not going to get rid of a specific group of people. Those targeted strikes aren't as effective when they just move between locations.
Yeah. But then that's only the. What about the Siokoi? Right? I
Mm-hmm.
want to bring it back to the trading idea of, these guys don't really want gold down here.
Nope.
Like, I offered gold. I have a lot of gold. Because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the way Yumagawans do it. They love gold, but
Oh, yeah.
they're like, I don't want your gold. That's gonna,
Mm-hmm.
attract Karai. They want the gold too.
Well,
I
that's
want
exactly
Kamagong.
it.
I want this. I want that. Can't
Which,
wait for like the Siokoi, who gold doesn't really matter to them, but they want stuff from inland. I need to
exactly.
start thinking. This is like, whereas again, tone shift, right? Emerging butterflies. Wow. Um, Yumagawa was really, we could just get up and go. Now I have to start thinking about where we should go, what we need to bring. Do we have to harvest something? Like, do we have to spend a day just gathering stuff to trade for?
Yep.
I can't take this the same. I can't play the same way anymore.
No.
That I'm so comfortable with doing. I need to learn.
I love it. And the best part is, the next place you're going is the Cradle of Progress, which is going to, again, shift the tone back to a bit more of a Yumigawan one, but it's going to be like the Uncanny Valley. Like, it's going to be Yumigawan in nature, in, like, architecture, but the way the people interact there is going to be slightly different. Your gold will carry more weight, however, because that is a bit more Yumigawan in nature. It's a port town. So you'll go there, you'll kind of see, but at the same time, let's say my favorite thing is the characterization of the Siokoi that make it inland to like the Cradle of Progress, and they ball the fuck out because they have no value for their gold. They just bring a bunch of gold and they're like, all right,
They could
here,
always,
and
they
just
could
hand
always
it out
just
like
get
candy.
more.
What's up?
Yeah, it's like they can always just get more gold.
Mm-hmm. Which also means, I don't want to spoil it. Never mind.
Yeah, that's what.
I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm not gonna spoil it. But I do love this next thing because it's gonna be like, oh goddamn. Oh, I'm so excited for tomorrow night's game. I can't.
Indeed.
Oh yeah,
Let's start closing it out a little bit.
I think so.
I think we've hit our marks.
I think so.
Anything else you want to hit? Because I mean, in total, we've hit a lot of the stuff I wanted to say. In total, I guess my recapping mark would be the campaign started off from just ideas of a martial campaign. And now that it's been running so long, we've gone through so many iterations, so many episodes, that what was once our funny characters going through some cool worlds and having some character development, it's now like a show. It's a series of what will we do next, because now we're here.
Yep.
What does it take for us to accomplish our goal this time?
I'll say that two things. One, I agree with that, and I'm gonna break off that point quickly. The pressure has definitely evolved a lot. Like originally, it was just, oh, I'm just playing D&D with just a few people. I'm just gonna make an encounter and just do it. Now, every time I walk in, and this is no fault of you guys, this is the curse of being a DM. Every session needs to be better. Every session needs to be more refined, more improved. The lore needs to get tighter. Everything needs to improve. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is definitely a point of like, sometimes I'll have one of those days where I'm like, shit, is this good enough? And then I'll have the problem is my transition periods when we come back from breaks, they've been getting shorter and shorter, thank God, but if I have to have those transition periods, I always get nervous because I feel like sometimes when I have those, it's like, oh God, is the magic of the campaign gone? And then, I start hitting the points again, and you guys fall back into rhythm, and I'm like, okay, never mind, I'm good. I'm doing right. I'm not a bad DM. I just needed a quick refresher. On top of that, I think the biggest tone shift in how I play my NPCs in the Karai, and I'm not talking from the beginning of the campaign, I'm talking between the time skip or not the time skip, but between the fall of Rye City and now, the Karai had a major tone shift. the Ruby and Karai are a major tone shift. And that's not just from my own work. I ran or started running another campaign in this setting from the perspective of Karai's soldiers. And originally I was like, oh, we're just going to take the conquistador route. We're going to make this the evil campaign. And then I went, no, that's too easy, that's boring, that's dumb. Then I started watching Star Wars The Clone Wars again. And I saw that line from Plo Koon, which is, "We're just clones, sir. Meant to be expendable." And he leans in and goes, "Not to me." And that was the moment I was like, that's what the Karai are like. They're not evil. At least, not to each other. Sure, they'll burn a village. Sure, they will kill innocents, but it's all for their brothers in arms. It's all for that sort of camaraderie. And that makes them that much more scary. Because it's no longer, oh, I can just turn them because, you know, what they're doing is wrong and they can see that it's wrong. And it's one of those, like, power of friendship morality things where it's like, the power of friendship compels you to be nice again and stop attacking me. And it's like, no. These guys are here, and they're not here because they're bad people or they want to be bad people. They're here because this is something that they're doing for their people, they're doing for their country, and some of the Inquisitors aren't going to attack you. Not that they're not going to attack you, but the reasoning isn't going to be, oh, well, he's Rubian, and I don't like him. Sometimes it really is. They'll hunt you down because you took out one of their soldiers, or that you took out one of their lackeys. And that sort of tone shift of, okay, this isn't just an evil organization anymore. This is a group of people that have banded together and worked as a team. You know, the whole war brings us together thing. And I think that shift is probably the best thing for the Cry, because it shows them being more threatening, because they're more cohesive now.
They have motivation to fight other than just serve the Emperor. They're here to survive and bring their brothers back.
Exactly. And yes, they'll still do things that are aggressive, like take over villages. But that's for their survival, that's for their country, that's for their men. Which there is the NPC that you haven't met, but I keep hinting at, the Conqueror. Where, like...
Yeah.
His motivation isn't, oh, I want the heads of these people because, you know, the Emperor says they're, you know, like, they're gonna give me a bounty. The Emperor says they're dangerous, and they're in my country. Or, they're in the country that I'm residing in. As long as they are left living, my men are in danger. So he wants to hunt you for that reason. It's no longer a money thing. It's no longer a power thing. It's a, my guys are in danger. I need to get them home. I almost took a, before we close out, but I almost took an aspect of what you do when we're airsofting, or at least the attitude that you've sort of taken in your head of, you know, sometimes when we fuck up, but it's, look, I'm not mad at you. I just, if this was real, you'd be in a body bag, I'd be in a body bag, and neither of us would be going home. I'm trying to get you and me home and out of here. And you need to just get in and out. So I took a lot of inspiration, as weird as it sounds, for the Conqueror, from you and from Rafi. Which is a scary parallel to make.
Yeah.
Oof. Anything you want to say before we close it out?
To close it out, I'll say this. We've come so far, and we keep going in this campaign, this lovely little tabletop game we play. And I'm so happy that we're able to keep doing this, and I'm so obsessed and infatuated with how it started, how it went, and how it's going, and how it's going to be. Because at the end of the day, this is Vito's project, and we all contribute to it with our characters, with our suggestions, and we're all growing as players from it. And no matter what, I'm always going to take, no matter where the campaign goes, I'm always going to take these moments that we live, me, Alex, Mel and Vito together on this screen. I think I'm gonna take these moments and bring them wherever I go, because even though it's just D&D, it's really been a great experience, and I can't wait for the rest of it.
I'm with you on that one. Ah, I think before we close out, I love phase twos. Other than that,
Yeah,
I think you said it the best. This really was an eye-opening experience and still is. And just ah, the journey has been long and it's been fruitful. But there's not much else to say. I guess we'll just
not much else to say.
thank you for
I'll
coming to
close
our
this
little
out.
tavern talk. Adrian, you want to close us?
Yeah, I got this. Thank you guys for so much watching another Tavern Talk. I'm Adrian, that's Vito. Alex is playing Alacoy, and Mel's playing Jude. We can't wait to see you guys in the next session, and probably on the next thing of Tavern Talk. So for now, happy holidays, and see you guys later.
Bye bye.
Peace.